Hi, I'm Danny. Check my clothes out. This jacket costs $1,600. The pants, $1,700. Sneakers, $2,500. A fancy apartment, 2 sports cars, and stacks of dough on my account. Once I had it all, but now I have nothing but these clothes. Not a penny. I'm broken. How did this happen? Well, I've spent all my money on the most expensive thing in the world. You want to know what it is? Have some patience. You'll get it soon. I was born in a very poor family. In a very, very poor one. We were living in the slums on the edge of town, among other poor people. There were 5 kids in our family, and we wore hand-me-downs of each other. You know, these kinds of people never get to the top. Nobody lets them. I was lucky to understand that when I was a little boy. I decided that I was never going to work. It does not make any sense. My father was working 3 jobs to provide for us, but we were barely making it. I wouldn't get a good education, which means I wouldn't get a decent job. I didn't want to repeat my father's destiny, so I started using my natural gifts, charm and cunning. Right, that's me. I began deceiving naive tourists into parting with money, and I did it good as I haven't been caught once. Moreover, I wasn't breaking any laws, just using people's foolishness. When I grew up, there were already tens of money-grabbing tricks up my sleeves, but these were just pennies. What I wanted was real cash. Once I met a rich lady tourist from Europe. I played an orphan living on the streets, and she took the bait. I was performing the role of the most pitiful teenager so brilliantly that she was giving me money and presents for a whole week. Before departing, she decided to adopt me and fetch me. I didn't want this to happen, so I decided to wrap it up. I've gathered everything that she gifted me and ran off. That was the biggest catch of that time. It was at that point that I've realized what I was going to do for a living. When I grew up, my main activity was to charm rich, naive women into giving me money. I knew how to be charming and presentable. Add grade A acting skills to that, and you get an ideal boy toy that you have to love. No choice here. All of it was actually very easy. I could instantly assess the financial status of any woman. Then I approached the richest one, and the game began. Dates, walks, adventures. After a week or so, she was already head over heels in love with me. Some of them ditched their husbands for me. Then came big weddings and oaths of eternal love. When my not-so-young wife was away on business, I had fun on her yacht with other women. I was spending her money and lived my life to the fullest. And when she finally exposed my intrigues, it was already too late. After divorce, I got some of her money. Hey, she was so in love with me, she forgot to make a marriage contract. It happened time after time. At the age of 25, I was married 14 times. I had my own luxurious apartment, 2 cars, 6 clothes, and a 6-digit bank account. Life was great, and yet I haven't worked a day in my life. But once, something happened. I met a girl. It was just another rich tourist, but she was young? Unlike the other women that I had tricked before, her name was Charlotte, and she was even younger than me. I got interested and started playing the charming game, but then I realized that my magic doesn't work on her. Instead of falling in love, all I got from her was squeamish disgust. My self-esteem was shattered. Have I lost my grip? This was a challenge, and I accepted it. I was thinking of new, most malicious ways of charming Charlotte. I began liking her. She had a thing. Flowers, gifts, desperate actions. Finally, she gave in and became mine. I had won. I was so thankful for her, for restoring my faith in myself. We were spending beautiful days and nights together. After a week, I realized that I was in love. Like, truly in love. I was ready to give up my previous affairs and begin a normal and fulfilling life. I shared my plans with Charlotte and asked her to be my wife. Charlotte asked me apprehensively if I were tricking her. Maybe I was just a simple poor con man and wanted to get her money. Oh, sweet Charlotte. She was so lovely when she wrinkled her nose. I showed her the money on my accounts, and she believed me. Charlotte agreed to marry me. I was on cloud 9 from happiness. I offered her a drink to our engagement. We opened up a bottle of the most expensive champagne and had a glass. I got dizzy. I was looking at my Charlotte and I saw how her smile was slowly disappearing. I fainted more. Charlotte's face became as serious as ever as she began collecting all of the documents of my bank account. What was happening? I wanted to stop her, but couldn't. My body wouldn't listen. My eyelids went heavy and fell asleep. When I woke up, Charlotte wasn't there, nor were the documents. I rushed to check on my accounts, but they were empty. All of my money was gone. And then I've realized I got tricked. That was all a really good show. I grabbed my head. Couldn't be. There was an even better trickster than me. How did I not recognize her? I started thinking desperately. What should I do next? Call the police? But they would ask questions about my money, and it would come out that I got them in not an honest way. The skillful con artist knew everything about me and realized that I wouldn't go to the police. When I got calm and began clearly thinking, I've decided what to do next. I sold my car, some of my expensive items. I was lucky Charlotte didn't take them as well. I used the money I got from them to hire a detective to find her. I wanted to meet her again, not to get my money back. I didn't care about it. I wanted to have my revenge with the fraud who was smarter than me. That was a matter of honor. So, the detective got to work. Time passed, I was waiting. Sometimes the detective brought me some info on Charlotte that he could gather. I got to know that her name wasn't even Charlotte. Her real name was Dolores. She was born in a poor district in a big family. Her father had lost his job in a factory, started drinking, and died when Dolores was 10 years old. The mother was very sick, and she had to send the children to an orphanage. After the orphanage, Dolores got into a fraud gang who tricked rich fools. Of course, young and pretty Dolores was the bait. There, she had mastered her acting skills and perfected the ways of doing legal money affairs. When she grew up, she left the gang and became self-sufficient. Rich men were her targets. She got them to fall in love with her and took their illegally gathered money. While studying Dolores' life, I've realized that we had a lot in common. We both had the same poor childhood. We both were doing the same. But Dolores decided to show me that she was much better than me in this business. She did it. Not a problem. The last move was mine. On one of the days, the detective that I hired told me that he had found Dolores. She was nearby on a yacht of a high-powered businessman, doing another affair. I was rubbing my hands happily. Gotcha. I've decided not to invent anything new and simply steal Dolores back. When it got dark, I swam closer to the yacht on a boat and got on board. I saw the businessman and his friends on a deck. They were drinking cocktails and laughing loudly. They looked dangerous. I wouldn't want to mess with them. Strange, but Dolores wasn't with them. I went down the hold and began searching in there. I was looking through one cabin after another and finally found the biggest room of the yacht. But what was that? Dolores was tied up to a chair and her mouth was duct taped. When she saw me, her eyes began glimmering with hope. She wanted to tell me something. I removed the duct tape from her face and she whispered, "Save me. They think I'm a fraud and want to do something bad to me." My poor Dolores. My feelings were alive again and I forgave her mistakes. I quickly began untying her and then the lights went on. Dolores screamed. I turned back. The businessman and his friends were standing behind me, looking at me angrily. I covered Dolores and told him to let her go. The businessman laughed at me and told me, "She tricked me, so now I'm free to do whatever I want with her." I didn't know what to do. They outnumbered me. Couldn't win a fight, and I couldn't let them have Dolores. I was desperate. Let her go! I'll pay, I screamed. The businessman laughed and said, "So how much you think she cost?" I had a little over 100,000 left on my account. That was my last money, and I offered it for Dolores. To my surprise, the businessman agreed. I pulled out my phone and swiftly transferred him all the money, up to the last penny. The businessman grinned and said that it was a good deal and we should celebrate it. We drank a couple of cocktails. I was happy. I freed my Dolores. I would give everything for her. Suddenly, I felt dizzy. My legs didn't obey me, and I collapsed on the floor. What was that? What was happening? I saw Dolores coming up to me. She smiled and said, "You fell for the same trick twice. Loser, now you are done for good. No money left." Everyone laughed. What an idiot I was! How did I not realize that Dolores was in charge? She gathered her own gang and I fell into her trap. These were my last thoughts before I passed out. When I woke up, the sun was shining. I was rocking on the waves in my boat not too far away from the shore. The yacht, of course, wasn't there. Nor was my money. This is the end of my story. Now you probably know what the most important thing in the world is. Of course, it's love. I gave everything I had for it. But I have decided to go all the way. I have nothing now, but one day, when I find her, I dream of revenge for everything that she did to me. Subscribe to the channel and help me, because this may happen to you as well.